Hello, viewers. Listen, we don't want to be those entertainers who are self-important enough to make the entire show about this horrible disaster that occurred this week, as though we're raising awareness, because you already know what's happened with the storm, with Harvey, what's been going on in South Texas. But a lot of people out there have been doing whatever it is that they can. You can give your time, you can give money, and here at Louder with Crowder, we're able to give a platform. I can't just write a check for hundreds of thousands of dollars like Miley Cyrus. None of us here can. We're not there yet. Hopefully we will be eventually. But what we do have is a platform, and you guys, the listeners and the viewers. So here is what we are going to be doing this whole platform, Louder with Crowder, the next 2 weeks. Every single Mug Club sign up in the next 2 weeks, we're going to give $30 directly to Harvey Relief, specifically to the Houston Food Bank. And that's because they're an organization where a huge portion of your money actually goes directly to those in need. You can read up on them. They have a great track record. $30 of every single Mug Club. So it's at louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub will be given directly to those in need. And we also, when this happened, we thought, well, we have a sponsor that would be perfect if they could help us here and match it. And, you know, we've done preparewithcrowder.com for a while. Patriot Supply is one of our partners. And we've always said, listen, we're not doomsday people, but I lived through the ice storm in Montreal. My brother's been in Los Angeles when you have these earthquakes. That is what the emergency food kit is for. And they've come in really handy. As a matter of fact, they're using these at shelters in Houston. So right now, we're doing $30 of every Mug Club sign up to Harvey Relief. And if you go to preparewithcrowder.com, you buy the emergency food kit. It's $99 shipped to your door free. That's a 30-day food supply. Preparewithcrowder.com. For every single kit that you guys buy, they're actually going to provide an entire week's worth of food for those in Houston. So that's Mug Club $30, preparewithcrowder.com. And listen, if you really just don't want to line our pockets, I understand it. There are other organizations that do a lot of good work, or if you don't want to buy a food kit or a Mug Club subscription is too expensive. Some good organizations are obviously the Red Cross. The Salvation Army is doing a lot of good work down there. Austin Pets Alive is a good one. South Texas, if you're in Texas, Blood and Tissue Center, whatever it is that you can do. What they really need right now is they need resources. They have a lot of volunteers, so they need that support through resources. That means money, and they need room. They need homes. So if you're in the area and there are people who need homes, open up your homes. Or if you can't, there are animals that need homes that can just be fostered until they're reunited with their owners. Whatever it is that you can do, this is what we can do. louderwithcrowder.com/mugclub, $30 for the next 2 weeks. And for the next 2 weeks, we're so grateful. Patriot Supply, preparewithcrowder.com, will match this food kit to those in need. And now on to the regular immature programming. Hopefully you expected nothing more.
Previously on Game of Thrones.
Your pledge to serve me as your queen is very much appreciated, Jon Snow.
I pledge to serve you as my queen because you show me something, Daenerys, that I have not seen in a long time.
And what is that?
Hope.
Hope? And what of you? Do you not hope for your own kingdom?
I concern myself not with kingdoms or crowns, but with the only battle right now that truly matters. That between the living and the dead.
You fish! Oh, what in bloody hell was that? It was an Antifa! Oh, what's an Antifa? It's anti-fascist! The f*** does that even mean? I'm not even a fascist! He thinks you're a Nazi! Milk! Milk! I need milk! It's what? I need to neutralize it with milk! I need fucking milk! Oh my god, I need beans! I need to neutralize. How can I help? How can I help? Well, you can help! Stop! I've been really clean and succinct. You should give me fucking milk! Can I milk? Open your eyes! Open your eyes! No. Open your eyes! You only think you're opening your eyes! Okay! I'm opening it! I'm opening it! Oh, what is that? I said milk! It is milk! That's not milk! That's the milk! It is milk! It's dragon's milk! What? Dragon's milk only spreads the bone! How am I supposed to know that? I breathe fire, you shit! That's literally the worst thing you could have done! I'm sorry! I'm sorry!
You're a strange animal, that's what I know.
That's called the it's sexism because we don't have breasts and can't do that dance.
It is
Really, when you
sad.
think about it, we have that's why men are not considered very good dancers unless we have a female dance partner. We just have fewer tools. Great show today. We have Ben Shapiro, Dean Kane on the show. Producing with me, even video studio as always, is Jared, who is not gay. Follow him on Twitter at NotGayJared, me at Crowder, with your thoughts, your comments, your photoshops. I fulfill my legal obligations, drawing conclusions. Are we good?
Not gay is confirmed.
It is confirmed. Also, Gerald Morgan is on the show at G. Morgan Jr. How are you today, sir?
I'm doing well, sir.
What's the wine of the
Doing
day?
well. Wine of the day is Seven Hills Cabernet.
Sounds to
from
me like you liked me
Washington
shaking my
State.
breasts.
I want some more.
Because wine is gay. Ben Shapiro, by the way, a little bit of a change of pace. Obviously, we're so grateful the Harvey relief will be going on for 2 weeks. Didn't really want to talk a whole bunch about that. Didn't really want to get into politicizing that. Chris Cuomo does a good enough job for us. We'll get into that. But Ben Shapiro and I will actually, some people have been asking, how do you know Ben? How long have you known Ben? So we'll get his thoughts on the news today, but kind of give you a little bit of a personal timeline. So, some of it there is interesting. Teaser. Ben put me up for a job on radio, and the audition was so awful on my part. I think he almost got fired just for recommending me. Okay.
That's awesome.
Other news of the
You've
day.
come so far.
Well, it was like
maybe
today's news in America, like reading them at breaks.
Oh, so kind of like when I subbed in for you. There you go.
Yeah, similar, only far more embarrassing.
Yep.
And much more damaging to Ben Shapiro's
Yeah,
reputation.
absolutely. Yeah.
Let's be real here. The Tumblr did it. The Tumblr did it enough. Outrage from all sides right now. This has been trending
Rightfully so.
today over a remake of Lord of the Flies, which, because it's 2017, will feature all women.
That can only go well.
Lord of the Flies will feature all women. It's being tentatively titled "And They're Dead." That's the working title. It's about how will women fare in a survivalist situation. It's
Not well.
No, I cannot imagine this is going to go well. Some feminists are praising the film because, like with Ghostbusters, they're happy. We have an all-female. We don't like anything original, so feminists, let's just take guy things and appropriate it. Though some are actually saying it's going too far. A script was leaked. And some people think it may be a little too much where, in an act of desperation, the gang allegedly steals Piggy's ovaries. So it's something they're a little upset about.
Now, is this
Making a fire with that.
is this the feminist version where they all get talking conks and it's just a lot of yelling?
Yeah. The other working title is High School.
High school. I used to work at Target. These broads, they
Is
can't
there any more to
manage.
that?
They can't manage the shoe department without turning into a
man.
catty
No,
hellhole.
it is hard. It is
And
hard to lead
the
women.
first people to tell you that is any woman who's worked with the majority of other women.
Yeah.
Well, hold on.
And
If
a
they
catty
put like
hellhole.
pretty girls on the island, when they had bikinis
Yeah,
and
that's
things
the
like
third
that.
tentative title. Girls Gone Wild
Yeah, I was
18.
about to say, haven't they already made this, but in a
I
little
mean, that's the thing. It's
more
like
adult
here's
fashion?
the thing. If they're attractive, it's Girls Gone Wild.
Right.
If they're ugly, it's
Ugly,
box
fat
office
feminists, no-
disaster.
Yeah, exactly.
They're stuck between a rock and a fat feminist place. I will say this about Lord of the Flies. It taught me very early on, and I don't know if any of you have had an experience like this. You can tweet me at Crowder. It taught me or leave your comment in the comment section, that I deal with tragedy through humor. Because I remember seeing the film, and I was upset for weeks as a kid when they just, spoiler alert, bashed Piggy's head in with a rock and stole his glasses. And I was so
very mean.
upset about it as a kid. I remember then we were reading it in high school in the class, and I knew that it was coming up, the portion of the book where they kill Piggy, and I started lauing hysterically
laughed.
and uncontrollably. And it was just, and I didn't know
How
why.
terrible of you. How
Yeah.
terrible. I always pronounced it conch, by the way.
Because you're retarded.
Oh, boy.
Theresa May, this is
It's
the
in the wrong
headline.
color. I couldn't see it.
Theresa May, did you see this headline? Theresa May condemns North Korea in the strongest terms possible. Okay, so she said that freaky little Muppet can go himself upside down with a wire brush until he develops anal pops and colorectal because he's an absolute scourge on society. He's a piece of
But she actually, Stephen just said.
We condemn North Korea in the strongest terms possible.
Now I'm going to look like the
Yeah.
dick.
No.
Maybe jumps the gun.
What do they think they're accomplishing by using that same term? Every time something terrible is described, in the strongest terms possible. It's like, really?
I can't
Nobody
be the only
talks
one
like
when I
that.
see these headlines, like in the strongest terms possible.
Oh, this is juicy.
Yeah.
Oh.
It's got to be real.
Like my dad.
They're
If
pissed.
Instead of spanking me, I am disappointed, and let that be noted in the strongest way possible. You mean you're not going to beat my ass? No, strongest way possible. Oh,
Yeah. Oh, that really hurts.
Shame
Don't
on
do
me.
that.
Shame
I'll
on
never do it
me.
again.
Speaking of a disappointment to dad, DNC pool boy in chief Chris Cuomo got into it with Kellyanne Conway. He tried to pivot Houston to climate change, global warming. No, it is climate change right now. Well,
confusing.
just see for yourself first.
You berated me for asking the question and made it sound as if I weren't caring about the situation.
No,
I think the cause of the storm matters.
I'm exposing the irony of the conversation. Here's the deal. You play amateur climatologist tonight, and I will play professional helper to those in need and continue in my job here as counselor to the president.
Look at his face. That's one of those things where he clearly has no comeback. He just sits there. He just got bitch slapped so severely on national
in the
television.
Way possible.
It was painful to watch. It's painful to watch somebody go onto somebody else's show and embarrass them. And actually, I don't know if a lot of people miss this because they just see the highlight as though they don't provide the context. But it gets worse for Chris if you look at his real reaction. Yeah.
And here's the deal. You play amateur climatologist tonight, and I will play professional helper to those in need and continue in my job here as counselor to the president to help
Role-playing with Kellyanne Conway. I can get behind that. Or bend over for it.
I don't think I think he needs to focus more, Chris Cuomo.
He looks like he needs to perpetually take a poop.
He does. He always looks like he needs to run to during the commercial break. He's running to the bathroom, just like, clear the path.
Jared is somebody with experience in this.
Yeah, I just the other day I had someone walk past me at World Market. This round type of Asian kid. Excuse me, sorry. I would have sworn that it was like Chris Cuomo heading to the bathroom. Then he sat down right next to me on the bench. Did nothing.
What? So
He
why
was pushing people over out of his way, screaming, excuse me.
Where was his bench?
It was right next to me.
But where were you?
Out in front of the store.
Which
he
store?
Needed a seat.
World Market.
Oh, World Market.
He wasn't going anywhere.
I was going to say, you live in a very suburban area where there are no
weirdest thing.
benches.
There was a bench. That was also
So
weird.
either you were
can't
buying
sit places.
methamphetamine.
Also really weird.
Did you give him 5 and like trade stuff?
It was
or-
very, very uncomfortable
Yes.
of a story, and I still think there needs to be more context provided. Okay, Japanese pro wrestler. This is a big for people who aren't pro wrestling fans, but a
Asian segue.
Japanese pro wrestler has become the first ever to top the Pro Wrestling Illustrated 500 list. So for those who aren't necessarily fans of fake fighting with sweaty steroided men, let me provide you with some context. He's known as the Rainmaker. Kazuchika Okada actually he's the first one. This is big, and he's really he accepted it, the award. He's proud to be number one. Okada, though, he said he'll always live in the shadow of his father, a legendary Zero. So that's something that. It's not too soon. It's never too soon.
Never too soon.
No.
Nope.
not
And
at
this
all.
surprised a lot of people. This is a big wrestling publication. It's like the Sports Illustrated
It
for
is.
wrestling.
It's big for
and
basement kids.
I don't know if you know, it's big in Japan.
Yeah.
Wrestling is huge. It's the United States, kind of like baseball. The United States and Japan it's this huge subculture there. So it surprised a lot of people in the United States. I'm a wrestling fan. It didn't really come as a surprise to wrestling fans or those in the Japanese community after Okada's most recent. It's become an iconic victory in the ring.
Watch it. He looks fired up here. This is going to be fun to watch.
Still funny.
So funny. You're a wrestling fan?
No.
I was about to say, what
I
the hell?
wasn't when I was
what
a kid.
parallel world are we living in? We exported douchebaggery to Japan, and apparently they love it in
I
wrestling.
wouldn't say wrestling is
Oh,
douchebaggy.
come on. It's just silly.
Every other pitch meeting morning, we get in there and go, is this played out yet? There we go.
Is there any way to fit in David Dow?
We go with, nope.
Nope.
And then we realized
He
it's
makes
not
it
played
work.
out because we were the only ones who had the balls to laugh.
That's true. We felt bad for about 3 seconds. We're like, no, this is okay.
This is okay. This is okay. I was surprised as to the backlash. We probably have received the biggest backlash over laughing over David Dow and then telling the truth about Bruce Lee.
Well, and then the rapper who got shot who said he couldn't be shot. I think we were ahead
That's
of the curve
still
on
funny.
that.
Or the rapper who rapped about being
apologies.
bulletproof.
Yeah.
He actually rapped about being bulletproof
Yeah.
and was shot dead. In terrible taste?
Of course,
Absolutely.
of course, yes.
Some songs don't age well.
But funny.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's true. Some songs, some films don't age well. The guy who rapped about being bulletproof, getting riddled with bullets, that would
Yeah,
be
not so
in the
much.
category.
Yep.
All right. So a lot of people have been asking about this since there's not a whole lot in the news outside of, listen, help however you can with Houston. I wanted to dive into something because a few people have asked questions about this, and they're at the forefront of some news stories right now. The Southern Poverty Law Center. For those who don't know, SPLC, you probably see it around quite a bit. Now, why is this something I wanted to dive into? Because YouTube is really using the Southern Poverty Law Center. They've talked about their hate speech guidelines now when they're combing through not only YouTube, but if you look at Google, you look at some of the third-party unbiased resources places like Facebook are using, Snopes, PolitiFact, and you see how far left they lean. Well, the Southern Poverty Law Center has situated themselves where they have a lot more influence over the things that you see or read online than I think you necessarily know. So let's go through a history here and get to where they are today with YouTube. So this is how it started. In 1971, the Southern Poverty Law Center was founded by civil rights lawyers Morris Dees and Joseph Levin Jr. And it was founded as a law firm to fight poverty, to fight racial discrimination, and the death penalty. So we're starting off. Well, here's the thing. Even if you don't necessarily agree with their politics, you can understand, okay, a legal defense fund or a firm to fight against the death penalty, I get it.
Yeah, I mean, were these guys Catholic, by the way? Because I know that's a big Catholic position on the death penalty. I mean, I get fight poverty and racial discrimination, but that part is...
Well, it's certainly not in their code of conduct as it stands today. What it is more of a social justice issue. Right. Then in 1981, the Southern Poverty Law Center began Klans Watch. It was a project monitoring the KKK. Okay, I'm fine with it. I mean, I don't think it's that hard to spot a Klansman at this point in 1981. Like, is it Robert Byrd? No. Is he near Robert Byrd? That increases the chances by 99%.
Does he have a statue? Never mind that.
Yeah,
Is there a torch and a bed sheet and a horse?
So they started with the Klans Watch, but then it turned into a much, much broader hate watch, which is what we know today. And we'll get to that in a little bit. In 1986, the entire staff outside of the founder left the SPLC. And most of them said it was because the organization was shifting from fighting against death penalty, from fighting for social justice sort of landmark cases, to simply targeting conservatives and creating their right-wing hate watch. So that was 1986. Any questions?
No, I mean, is that pretty much because we decided that it was better for them to be able to pull themselves out of poverty instead of just be given free handouts? I mean, is that where that kind of comes from? Well, the Democrat, they're kind of going after conservatives because conservatives are saying, hey, we're going to help you get jobs.
This is one thing where people have been saying, I was always a Democrat, and this is one thing that kind of bothers me. I was always a Democrat until they became so extreme. No, this timeline shows you, if you look at the left-wing activism, accusing the right of being racist has always been one of their go-to playing cards.
But in backing it up by giving out, the big social programs.
No, they just shifted it. They just shifted. They just shifted anyone who's conservative is a hate speaker. You can go see their hate watch. It doesn't have anything to do with economics or death penalty anymore. 1991. Southern Poverty Law Center, they launched the Teaching Tolerance Program to influence educators and instruct students on social justice and, quote, anti-bias. Well, how about anti-social justice bias? Is that somewhere on the list? It's like, we are an organization founded on biased ideals. Get it? We're going to fight bias. It's like the guy from Captain Planet with the power of heart. You are useless, Mowgli wannabe.
That's awesome.
I hate that kid.
Gosh. It's the worst. Kind of like the bow and arrow in Avengers. What's his name?
Yeah, Hawkeye. Like, I'm a great shot. It's a robot.
It's robots.
What the hell are you gonna do?
Yeah, but I've got Valerian steel.
It worked for Robin Hood, but now they're firing lasers.
Everything about Hawkeye just offends the sensibilities. Okay,
sucks.
So this is what happened with Southern Poverty Law. I wanted to give you a timeline of where they started, what their purpose was. Law firm, fight these social justice causes, and then it came to, all right, everyone who's right-wing is horrible, and they started creating these maps, and Klans Watch became Hate Watch. So that brings us to today. The Southern Poverty Law Center today only serves as a propaganda wing of the left. People need to understand that. So this Hate Watch, if you go and see it, it looks to discredit any conservatives by labeling them extremists and putting them on these watch lists. And you can go see these right now at Southern Poverty Law Center. I think, do we have the map?
Yep, the map is up now.
So they went from fighting the Klan to now fighting hate groups. And you see on this map, by the way, remember when people got mad about Sarah Palin with the targets on a map because of districts to vote them out? But they're actually putting targets on maps. These are hate groups. And amongst these people on these maps or these groups are hate groups like the Family Research Council, Alliance Defending Freedom, hate speakers, Dr. Ben Carson. Yeah. Because he said that he supported traditional marriage.
Because he talks loud enough to threaten anyone on the planet.
So these were all they pulled that back, I think, in 2015, but they put all of these groups or people on there. It's kind of like CARE with yours truly. I'm a hate speaker. By the way, veiled terrorist organization, CARE. Yeah, you can come at us legally, CARE. I'm okay with it.
Well, that's when you said that in 1981 when they transferred it to hate groups. That's when I kind of cringed. I was like, oh gosh, man, that just leaves everything open. Whoever decides it's hate, you're just going to watch those
And it
groups.
becomes entirely subjective.
Yes.
Because not only Ben Carson, but people like Ayana Hirsi Ali, we've written about her. She's a liberal atheist feminist. So why is she a hate speaker? Because she speaks out against Islam.
Right.
Someone who was raised with Islam, somebody who's seen the evil underbelly. She's officially labeled a hate speaker. If you look at the Southern Poverty
So
Law
they lay out
Center.
their sacred cows and say these are off limits.
These are off limits.
Islam, feminism, Bruce Lee.
You can threaten to kill Christians all over the planet, and you're totally fine.
Well, this brings them. This is brings them to their primary purpose, and this is what's most disconcerting. It's to silence free speech. So their goal is to create this veil of all of these people are extremists. Therefore, what do you need to do? It's just like Antifa and Nazis, right? That's what happens. Like Antifa with Nazis. If you think everybody is a Nazi, if you say everyone who disagrees with you is a Nazi, someone says, "Well, what if I punch them?"
Yeah.
And then you accidentally punch your own people with Antifa.
Freaking hilarious.
Hey, listen, guys, you punch your own guy. It is important to not punch somebody just because you think they're a Nazi. How about don't punch them, period?
Yeah, exactly.
Even if they're a Nazi, don't punch them. How about that? Just don't punch people because of their points of view. So this is when you paint everyone as extremists, and the Southern Poverty Law Center has been doing this for a long, long time. I encourage you to go read the timeline on it. Don't take my word for it. Like LeVar Burton, find some 6-year-old who can vouch for me. So it's troubling because YouTube is using them as one of their partners for, I have the term here, Hate News Index, the Documenting Hate Project. So yeah, groups like the Southern Poverty Law Center are relied upon as unbiased resources.
Unbiased.
For YouTube to determine what is and isn't hate speech. Now, they're using these for videos where they're saying are not necessarily a violation, like recruiting for ISIS or beheadings, but kind of in that veiled area of hate speech. Okay, so now we're using the SPLC. So is Ben Carson, I believe in traditional marriage. We're going to ban that on YouTube as hate speech? Flagged
immediately.
And here's what's so upsetting about this. YouTube made them a partner after the FBI completely dropped them. They were using the Southern Poverty Law Center, and then in 2014 they stopped for the exact same reasons that I've outlined. And not only that, it should be noted, it's not just ideological. The FBI decided to drop them because they've actually been rated as a charity, consistently given an F rating from Charity Watch. So not Hate Watch, but actual Charity Watch, and that's why it's important with Houston. You have celebrities given to LGBTQ causes where they toss out a sandwich, but 99% of it goes to painting a rainbow flag on a bus. You should know where your money is going.
There are a lot of colors.
That's why we know the Houston Food Drive.
They're 52 new colors.
It's gotta go down to Home Depot. It ain't gonna paint itself.
Well, wasn't a censor? Wasn't she saying that with Linda Censor? She was saying that we're gonna go help these immigrant groups.
Yeah.
We're not gonna help everybody. And everybody was like, "Are you serious?
Right.
This is a pack we're giving to."
And exactly. And this is why the FBI has dropped the Southern Poverty Law Center, and then YouTube picked up where they left off. To give you an idea, in 2011, I think they raised over $7.5 million. Yeah, but they spent less than 1.7 of it on litigation. Kind of odd for an organization that was founded on law. Well, where's the money going?
It's in the name.
It's overhead.
It's overhead.
What overhead?
Somebody needs a new pool.
So here's something else. YouTube is not only consulting with them, but they've invited staff members from the Southern Poverty Law Center to be a part of YouTube's Trusted Flagger program.
That can only go well.
Yeah, think about this. They've been invited saying, we're going to give you access to these tools. Now, they're shutting a lot of people out. Now, I will say this. We've had good contacts with YouTube. We've actually been informed that we're probably not going to be affected by a lot of these sort of hate speech guidelines on YouTube. Obviously, the demonetization has been huge. That's why the Mug Club support, we're incredibly grateful for it. But it is disconcerting when you see, okay, Southern Poverty Law Center, you're inviting them in to use tools while you're stripping other YouTube partners of tools. You're stripping their videos of comments, of thumbs up, of the ability to share it. It goes into a ghost roll on YouTube. Now, we don't know how this is going to be rolled out. We don't know who's going to be affected. So hopefully we keep an eye on it. But here's something that, knowing everything we know now, you're YouTube, you're Google, and you're saying, okay, we need to have some people who are going to check us here. We need to check our blind spots and make sure that we're considering all points of view and determining what is and isn't hate speech. And you go with the organization that classifies Ben Carson in the same breath as neo-Nazis? At a certain point, is it proactive propaganda or is it just ignorance? The question is, does YouTube, a subsidiary of Google, do they not have access to Google?
Who's in restricted mode?
And look, whoever controls the information controls what people think. This is important. This is really important. This is exactly what happened. And you talked about Nazis a second ago. This is what happened with the Jews. They started blaming the Jews for the problems that they were having. They started classifying these different groups together. And all of a sudden, you started to get it into the psyche. And people started to make the connection. Our problems are because of these groups of people. And
I wish you hadn't used the Nazi example.
No, that's the Nazi example. That's what we were just talking about. They're calling us Nazis.
Don't call me a Nazi. You're a Jew.
You're the one that gets called a Jew, not me.
It's true, I do. I get called a Jew all the time.
But that's why it's important because
Right.
it's very easy to go from where we're at. Even if YouTube is totally going to be nice to everybody,
Well,
it's
make
very
it-
easy
you
to go
had
to
a
the
point-
next
we've
step.
talked
It's
about
a
this a
proven
lot.
strategy no matter what your end goal
Exactly.
is.
It's a
Yes.
proven strategy. If you just repeat it enough times, people go, yeah, that's hate speech. That's
Yeah.
hate speech. Yeah, that's hate speech. Where everyone's going, Ben Carson, Google Gobble, one of us,
Yeah.
one of us, Ben Carson, hate speech. And you're in an information age where you're not actually listening to what he's saying. I'm using him because
Right.
he's a super benign example.
Of course.
By the way, that hate map includes Christian middle schools as hate
What?
groups. Yes, I'm not exaggerating. Go look at the
Oh
Hate
my
Watch
gosh.
map.
Well, that's the very next step for Christians. We're worried as Christians because there's a lot of beliefs that we hold that they would label as hate speech
Right.
sometimes, right?
I know.
And like, guys, we don't hate anybody. That's the whole point
when
of our
they
religion
do
is
it
love.
becomes a real bitch to sacrifice virgins. People know that this is part of a process. If you're Episcopalians, you do a mock sacrifice. We were talking
They're
about
not
this, the
committed.
hate speech laws. Before we even get to this,
That bothers me a lot.
yeah, go ahead.
So
And then we have to go to Ben Shapiro.
I have a real problem with legislating what people think,
Mm-hmm.
right? And that's exactly what hate speech laws do. And I heard about this. I watched The West Wing a lot, and there's an episode that addresses this that really made the point. They were trying to do it, and I was like, wait a minute. Murder is murder, right? Like the person is still dead. Whether
Doesn't need
you
a
hated
footnote.
them, exactly. You know what you said. I don't understand how you can add on another 10. And I was like, well, look, if I go kill a mass murderer, does that knock off 5? Like the normal penalty is 20, but we're only going to give you 15 because
Yes.
that guy was a real jerk, you know?
Yeah, but if you kill a pregnant lady, they give you it to the bonus round. You get off scot-free. Imagine that episode of Law and Order.
Yeah.
If people, it's just, all right, oh, looks like murder. I'll be doing 20 to life. Sir, he has a lisp. Add another 10.
Yeah, well, and we're taking stuff from the UN and UNESCO and those guys over in Europe on, oh, guys, you got to deal with racism. It's the most racist place on the planet.
Yeah. And I think this is
Seriously?
important because the hate crime laws, the hate speech laws, what is a hate crime? Like we said, murder doesn't need a footnote. So what you're really doing is serving to legislate thought, is you're now serving to legislate. Listen, if you find a motive for a murder, the reason you're looking for a motive is because you're looking to charge somebody with murder. The crime is what matters.
Right.
In this case, you're looking to use the murder to try and charge someone with a motive. And that's what's so bastardized about it. And it's a game plan that works. We have to go to Ben Shapiro here in a second. It's a game plan that works because you see it here. Oh, hate speech, hate crimes. Therefore, these people are hateful, and you intimidate organizations into agreeing with you. It's the same thing that happens with right now the hurricane. You look at what's happening with Harvey. Well, climate change, all scientists agree with me. Therefore, that's what's happening now. Let's politicize it. Even though scientists aren't necessarily saying this could have been stopped by anything Al Gore has proposed. So we'll talk about that more. We'll come back here with Ben Shapiro and then Dean Cain. That'll be fun.
Home Body Break with Steven Crowder and Not Gay Jared.
As those warm summer nights turn to cool fall evenings, it's important to not let the weather dictate your healthy lifestyle. That's why it's paramount that you find an activity you can practice indoors to stay fit and be safe. And today, Darren, a master purple belt, is going to teach Jared the art of Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, a self-defense system of techniques that teaches a smaller man how to defeat the larger foe. Are you ready?
Definitely.
Yeah, all right.
Safety first. Okay, now today Darren's going to be teaching us a rudimentary technique with the rear naked choke. Now it's important to note, before we even wrap your arms around your opponent's neck, you need to control his body with proper leverage. That means using your legs.
Yeah, he's out.
What do you mean he's out? You weren't supposed to apply any pressure.
I didn't apply any pressure.
But did he tap?
I didn't teach him to tap.
We need to get his legs up to get the shit. Okay, today we'll be learning a fundamental technique with the rear naked choke. Now, it's important to note that before you even try to perform the choke, you need to
He's
control...
out again. His neck is just so small.
I don't know how this happens again. Let's just...
Home Body Break with Steven Crowder and Not Gay Jared. Sponsored by Mug Club.
And now for episode 245, a Game of Thrones fandom podcast. So, did you see that this week, Eugene? the episode?
Yeah.
Did you see was a lot of boobs in it?
Yeah.
We'll be back with installment 342 of the Game of Thrones Fandom Podcast.
Well, me. Private Sullivan! Code 16! It's happening. It's even worse than I imagined, Private.
Sir, yes, sir.
The social justice disease has plagued half the globe, and it's become a leviathan greater than we could have ever imagined.
Sir, yes, sir. Thank Jesus. We could think we could write it out. There's a 30-day food supply for preparewithcrowder.com. $99. Shipped free, sir.
That is true. Thank the Lord above for preparewithcrowder.com. 30 days seems about the right amount of time we need to ride this out. The good thing about the social justice disease, Private, is that it's a very temporary phase.
Sir, yes, sir.
You, feeling okay, Private?
Sir, yes, sir.
You sure about that, Sullivan?
Sir, yes, sir.
Private Sullivan, you bring that disgraceful social justice disease into my bomb shelter!
Sir, no, sir!
You haven't been hanging out in any slam, poetry nights, or single organ coffee shops against my orders, have you?
Sir, no, sir! But I'm pretty sure systemic racism is still inherent in the system, sir. And jogging is black! Oh, no!
Preparewithcrowder.com or call 888-411-5153. 30-day food supply kit, $99 shipped free!
They have pudding!
All right, Ben Shapiro. Glad to have him here of the Ben Shapiro Show at Daily Wire. Careful, we have to have a hazmat suit to clean up the mess here. Ben, how are you today?
I'm okay. How are you doing?
You're wearing the David Copperfield shirt to show off the guns.
Exactly right.
Nothing
That's
up my
right.
sleeves.
Unleash the Python.
Okay, don't do that. That's not a gift that we want going around. Ben, so dailywire.com, people need to go listen to your show. The Tumblr's all right, I guess. But before we get into the personal stuff, what is the most important news story you think of this week? Obviously outside of the hurricane, but the media seems to be making a thing out of all the things that aren't things, if I can articulate it so well, but I think you'll do it better.
Well, I mean, aside from it being 106 degrees in our studio and having no air conditioning, I think the biggest story that affects me this week is there are a bunch of stories that I think have been overlooked. I think the story about Comey apparently having a memo ready to exonerate Hillary before the evidence was even in, which is just breaking today. That's a fairly big story that a lot of people aren't covering.
Yeah.
I think that President Trump pushing for tax reform obviously is a big story that hasn't gotten heavy coverage. I think some of the Antifa coverage from Sunday was stunted.
Yeah.
Even though that was a huge story, I agree with your Game of Thrones with your Game of Thrones movie.
No one can take on the Antifa.
I think that's right. The Antifa people, running by and hitting Game of Thrones characters in full run, is I think a major issue that we have to take on. But it actually is a huge issue, especially, I say affecting me personally. Like we have been basically Berkeley, is supposed to have us September 14th. They still have not released tickets. Right?
No.
We're 2 weeks out. They have not released a ticket yet.
I know.
And we had people down at the ticket office today, and the people at the ticket office legitimately ran away from the people who were there to ask questions. Like they got up and they just ran away, apparently.
It was like in Jingle All the Way, where they hide behind the toy shelves. Like, oh no, it's a stampede of people. It's a Disney film. Let's hide. Only it actually happened.
I wish that I understood the reference, but I've never seen Jingle All the Way because no one has ever seen Jingle All the Way.
Well,
Jingle
you
All
live
the
a
Way?
very sad life. You and your T-shirts. All right, go ahead, continue. Listen to this. The tax reform is not a bad thing. Just horrible timing.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, I don't know why President Trump decided to do that this week. There's also the announcement that he might revoke DACA. Again, I think right now Trump has a winning news cycle for him just from a political point of view. Put aside the human tragedy of all of this, but we're political analysts. That means we always look at sort of the political fallout of this stuff. And Trump has done, by pretty much any measure, a decent job.
He has done a good job.
Hurricane. I mean, the administration did what they had to do. They coordinated with the people on the ground. There haven't been a lot of complaints about federal malfeasance. He did the obligatory "here I am to show that I care" trip to Texas. I hate that kind of crap, by the way, because it seems to me that the president has a TV, and it would be better if we used all the resources on the ground to actually help the people on the ground as opposed to prepping the ground for Trump to arrive. I hated it when Obama did it. I hated it when Bush did it. I don't like it when Trump does it either, but that's not on Trump. That's on the media that insists that Trump do that sort of stupid
I think it's a rallying symbol for people in Texas. You know, listen, they can maybe get a second win. I can see how it's valuable just for morale, but it's certainly not of the utmost importance as the media. You know, can you believe she wore heels to get on the aircraft and then left with sneakers? Yeah, I can. I do that in almost every flight.
Yeah, my wife does that every week at synagogue. Right? So, like, I understand the changing of the shoes. It's not that big a deal. Yeah. But it just demonstrates the lengths to which the media will go to try and turn a win into a loss for President Trump. It's not going to work here because there's no loss. I mean, he hasn't done anything wrong here. Yeah. Again, this is coming from somebody who is more than willing to smack him when I think he's doing something wrong, and I don't see any evidence that he's done anything that really deserves criticism so much in the aftermath of the hurricane.
Absolutely, and I think Governor Abbott deserves a lot of credit. This guy has been very active and doing a really good job here. For all the political mudslinging, people have done a good. And listen, outside of media, outside of New York, LA, and DC, most Americans have come together to try and do the right thing. All right, so we don't want to, because we still want to keep people entertained. To give them some relief here. Some people were asking, how do I know Ben? How do we know each other? Because we've known each other for a long time. So I figured let's go into the timeline here. I don't know if you remember, we first met. Do you remember who introduced us?
I mean, I assume it was Andrew Breitbart because, I was in LA and Andrew introduced everyone. Like, legitimately, Andrew introduced everyone to everyone. It's true. But the first time I remember actually meeting you in person was it when you came to my condo because you needed a place to crash?
No, I don't think I remember that you needed a place to
crash for. No, you needed you had to get a flight stopover. You remember you had to come over and you had to you needed a place to store your stuff for a little while.
I don't.
I remember
it sounds like
I remember.
I remember this.
I seriously. The reason I remember this is because you insisted on showing me your Brazilian jiu-jitsu skills.
No, that was later. I remember that because I remember where you lived. I did some research and it was right near the Ralph Macchio apartment complex from Karate Kid.
This is right.
And I remember I walked up like, how?
That's
You're
right,
like, exactly. You're like, really? I said, how do you not know this? And you live here. I was out of my mind.
Sounds like Owen Benjamin telling me he's like, did Carter show you all the gas stations? Is that a thing?
I was like, because I really like the gas stations. Okay, it does.
I remember you being so pumped about the Karate Kid. I just remember you going out there and charging out in the middle of the street and doing the crane in the middle of the street for no reason. And I was like, what is going on?
But before we met, you were actually my first lawyer. So people don't know, Andrew Breitbart introduced us. This was in 2009, I think, and then you negotiate. I was like, listen, I don't know. PJTV came and offered me a contract. You're a Jewish lawyer. I've heard you guys are the best. Can you do this for me? And so you negotiated a contract with PJTV for me. A lot of people don't realize you were the one who handled my Fox contract as well.
Yeah.
Read it over. Right. And even though I don't think you're necessarily an entertainment lawyer, I was like, listen, just make sure I'm not getting screwed on these deals. And you tweaked a couple of things.
A contract is a contract. So I knew enough to actually read a contract and see where the potholes were. I mean, for you, the big issue, not to get into your legal background, but the big issue was always exclusivity. What you were allowed to do outside of Fox and what Fox forced you to do inside of Fox. It was the same thing with PJ. So that stuff, at least I knew how to read for because I'd had the same issues myself. So it wasn't really that big a deal.
That's a big thing people need to know because the reason this is a show, for example, when I was at Fox, I was always pushing to do something like this. Yeah. And so Ben actually protected me in a lot of ways where I was always able to do what I wanted outside of, wherever else I was working. They didn't necessarily like it.
Consider tits.
Did I consider breasts? I would have gotten much more airtime at the Fox News if I had breasts. So this is what happened. I don't know if you remember, and I used to do your show. For people who don't know, you had a show in Orlando on the weekends. And I used to do this show in Orlando, and we were the first, so among the first contributors ever. It was before it was Breitbart. It was Big Hollywood, for people who don't know. There was you. I came in just because Andrew, long story anyways, it was you, Adam Baldwin, I know myself, John Nolte. There were only a handful who contributed from the beginning. And I don't know, does this mean anything to you? For people out there, this is not, does not have any kind of talking points here. Does Crowder's 3-ring circus ring a bell to you?
No.
This is before Louder with Crowder. This is before Louder with Crowder was ever a thing. You're like, well, listen, I can see that you're a popular contributor at Big Hollywood. And I remember him sitting there. He's like, and I think a good site would be Crowder's 3-ring. That would be the umbrella site for where you do your own content. and I want equity.
Did I really say that?
Yes,
wow.
you did.
And look at and by the way, if I had gotten equity right now, I'd be a much wealthier man. Look at you with your nice studio and the neon in back and the Conan the Barbarian sign and the whole deal.
I don't have the silk shirts though. I don't have the silk shirts. So this time I remember doing your radio.
Jewish lawyer, come on.
Yes, in Orlando, you had your show Primetime, not show. You had your book Primetime Propaganda, and this is before you really had. You were on.
Right, you came to the book party for that, and then you took the photos. And this is another one of our bad memories. We have Steve and I have a bunch of like great memories and bad memories all wrapped together. So one of our bad memories is that you and Jordan did the photos for that. And then that was the only photo I had with Andrew Breitbart, and it is gone forever. I have no photos with Andrew anywhere. Yes, it's amazing. I knew Andrew for years.
Well, that's not me. That's on my brother.
No, it's one of those weird things, you know, like I'm sure that you and I probably have no photos together, even though we've seen each other a bunch of times and we're on your show together and my show together.
Yeah.
Like aside from split screens, then like, you know, when you're friends with somebody, how often do you actually say, you know, let's snap a photo together, especially two guys?
Yeah.
Right? Like that just doesn't happen. Like my wife has pictures with all her friends.
Right.
But I'm not sure I've ever taken a picture with my father, like once. You know? Like, it's not something it's not a dude thing, really.
Unless you're embarrassing someone. Then you take the picture when you really embarrass them. And then the only picture you have is like, oh, it's my balls on my friend's face. That's not one for the scrapbook.
Well, we didn't, you and I, neither of us wanted that picture out there.
No. So here's what takes me to the next thing. This is all true. There's a long and storied history, and then it gets to a cold spell. We'll talk about that. But so I did go over to Ben's place, I remember, because he actually submitted me, there was for a radio gig. And he may or may not remember this, but this is actually where I didn't.
Oh, you said submit, and I was thinking like.
Yeah. He put me up. He recommended me.
He grappled you.
And I bungled it. It was so bad. He had this little sound system in his room. And this is after I remember showing him jujitsu, and I did a guillotine choke on him. He was like, my hernia. And I was like, well, you have to tell me you have a hernia. I didn't know. I wouldn't choke you if I knew you had a hernia. And then I did this, and I don't remember. It was one of those. It was a radio gig, like news. It was like, and this is the news this morning. This happened. It couldn't be less me. And you risked your reputation and recommended me, and I knew as soon as it was done, I couldn't even look you in the eye. It was so bad. Do you remember that?
I don't remember the fallout, but it's been years since you were on that radio station, so maybe they remember the fallout. So
it was, I remember. I was like, oh man, I feel so bad that I disappointed Ben. He put me up for that, and I just remember it was scripted. You had to read the script, and they were like, we don't want any input. We want no input. And then all it was I was reading the script, I'm like, input. Like, thanks, we'll give you a call, kid. And they hung up, and I had to walk out of the room, and you're like, so, how did it go? And I said, well, let's go back to choking you with your hernia. I think that'll be more pleasant.
And this is also how you lost that role in There Will Be Blood.
Yes, exactly. Yes. If I ruin your radio show. So, and then we weren't, a lot of people who came into this later, you and I didn't interact as much for a while. And I've talked about it on this show, but I think, you were at Breitbart at this point, and they kind of did this, someone there did kind of a hit piece on when I left Fox saying, oh, he was fired for not being funny. And I remember there was no byline in the article and no source. And all I knew was the producers who I spoke with at Fox were like, well, no, none of us ever said this. And so for a while, even, I was leery of anyone who was working there, and you were still there for a little bit. So I don't know if for people who don't know, kind of explain that time period, because you had your own stuff going on.
Yeah, I mean, so this was late 2013, and Breitbart had come into conflict with a bunch of people who had worked with it. Came into conflict with you, came into conflict with Dana Lash. There were a lot of people who really disassociated sort of from anyone working with Breitbart for some reasons that I think are probably not bad reasons. And by late 2013, I had already started my own project on the side. I was already launching Truth Revolt, which was sort of the precursor site almost for Daily Wire with the David Horowitz Freedom Center. And so I was basically out of the editorial chain by the time that article was written. That article, the Truth Revolt launched like October 7th, 2013. I think that article, you sent me the link today. I think the article was like a couple of weeks after that. Yeah. So I was already sort of out of the loop as far as editorial because I was running my own site at that point. And then by January 2014, I was completely out of the editorial loop at Breitbart altogether. I was writing like one piece a day for them. Right. But I wasn't intimately involved in editorial at all. But yeah, I mean, there was a point there where you and I didn't speak for.
Yeah, they use you more as a figurehead at that point because you people at this point you were developing reputation. You were getting more of a public, I guess you were getting more public airplay, and so. Like you said, you were doing one piece a day, but I was going, well, he's their main guy, and there's this article, and I know at least portions of it were flat out untrue, and so there was this miscommunication for a long time. I want to say at least a year, Ben and I, we weren't enemies ever, but we just didn't talk because it wasn't a risk I wanted to take.
Right, exactly. And then I can't remember what prompted us to start texting each other again. It must have been after I left Breitbart. I'll bet it was probably
no.
right
It was before.
Breitbart,
It was before. It was before because yeah, you had been on the show, and
I remember that. This is kind of the timeline where I started coming in.
Yeah, you started coming in.
Yeah.
And I was like, I was like, yeah, Ben's a really smart guy. I was like, just be careful with him. Don't let him on the inside track here at all, because I don't necessarily know. Because again, I didn't know. I just knew this stuff happened at Breitbart. Andrew and I were friends. You and Andrew were friends. And the whole thing changed. And all of Andrew's closest friends, it was just a bunch of shrapnel. And no one knew up from down.
That's right. Yeah, Andrew was the glue that held the entire thing together. And then when he died and the site changed in a variety of ways, that definitely fractured a lot of relationships for sure. And then you texted me out of the blue and you started asking me about the article, and I didn't even remember the article.
Yeah.
And we had a long text conversation. And finally, I was like, well, I don't really remember that, but I'm sorry that happened. And, obviously that's not what I think of you, since, I've been pushing your stuff on our sites for years.
Yeah.
So, on Truth or Vote and Daily Wire, I mean, Daily Wire, we post your videos virtually all the time.
Oh,
so,
yeah. And even though your Tumblr sucks, we promote you all the time. And even before that, with the Primetime Propaganda, this was a book. I just thought it was a great book. I still recommend people go read it, because a lot of people probably haven't read it because that was before you became immensely popular. So they've probably read some of your newest stuff.
Right.
But that I would put amongst some of the most important pieces of anything that you've written.
Yeah, I appreciate it. Yeah, that was the book party you came to. It was for Primetime Propaganda, which was it was sort of the underground Hollywood debunking all of their mythology about not being political book. Yeah. And by the way, thank you for the reference to the Tumblr. It is just glorious.
It's fantastic.
We simultaneously.
If you like asbestos, it's a
We
throwback.
also make fun of yours.
It does drive her well.
Yeah, exactly. The nice thing is that you'll die in luxury of your cancer, holding this in your withered hand. That's the idea behind this Tumblr.
I appreciate your honesty.
We recommend your crappy mug as well, and we push your stuff on our show too. So we have a good symbiotic relationship, I think, but it's. Yeah, we had to get beyond the poisonous time.
Well, that's the whole thing. I think it's an important lesson, just as far as people out there can just, again, Ben and I were never on the outs. Like Jared knows, I was just like, just be careful, because I don't know what's happening. And I was with everyone who was from the whole kind of Breitbart fallout, because unlike, there were only a handful of people who were invited directly to Andrew's funeral, and I remember I wasn't able to make it. Funny enough, because I was actually shooting a pilot for an MMA show. For Fuel TV, which then got bought by the UFC. But they scrapped this. Like Fuel TV said, we will never do MMA. It'll be cars and extreme sports. And I remember when this happened, and I didn't make it to the funeral. But Adam Baldwin saying, you know what, it's down to you and one guy, and it's this screen test, Andrew would have wanted you to do it. And I was the only person I think who was invited there who never really worked for Andrew. I wrote consistently. I constantly, we were just friends. He was just a supporter. And so it was a really weird time. But for people out there kind of hearing that, it just goes to show you, just talk. You see it with families. In this case, it wasn't so severe. But if we'd have just talked about it, a lot of this would have been cleared up more quickly.
Macaulay Culkin, what? I just talked to him.
Yeah, why don't you just talk to him?
Yeah, not to get all biblical and everything, but there is a Jewish concept beyond making money that is excellent, and that concept is that you're supposed to always try and attribute the best possible motives to people until you're proved wrong.
Yes.
And I think that holds on both sides of this particular one.
And then the very next verse says, attribute the best possible motives because it's immensely profitable. All right. And so this is what led us through. People were saying, what's your story? It's been back to 2009. He was my first lawyer because it was the only lawyer that I knew. He was very smart. We kind of didn't talk for a while. And now he's back here, and I think he's one of the smartest minds out there. What were we going to say?
Hey, Ben, let's see that mug one last time. Let's see the Tumblr.
Yeah, let's see that Tumblr.
Here it is.
Looks great.
Yep. Yeah.
What are you doing to it?
Well,
You're doing something horrible,
this is a problem. See, this is the thing. We're ahead of you in the programming ability, so we can see things that you can't. Now it is the great mug war of our time. We'll see what happens with it. But Ben Shapiro Show at Daily Wire. You can listen for free on iTunes, and of course subscribe to their to get the video stuff so you can see his wonderful Punim and his Simon Cowell t-shirts. Ben, thank you very much, sir. Here's to hopefully many more years.
Yeah, thanks a lot.
Oh, asbestos. Hey, Gavin, we're live here. I really don't have a lot of time right now.
Okay, I agree with you. I'm not on time either.
Okay, I know, but you called me. What's up?
Episode 464
I am,
of the Game of Thrones Fandom Podcast.
No one at the view seems to know who I am.
Game of Thrones
I asked
Yeah, I know.
if she wants to go get a coffee or something. She says just drink coffee. I said, do I get a beer? She said no.
Yeah, I know. She drinks both coffee and beer. I told you, they did this with Terry Crews. They offer these contracts. They don't plan on fulfilling them. They do it all the time.
Episode 542
I'm starting to feel like they pushed it as like you're part of the family. But I don't feel that way.
No. Listen, that's what I've been telling you. I think CRTV is coming over here with us and Mug Club members. That's the right move, and we can still do it.
Holy shit. Josephine Gavin is gonna be coming to CRTV. I'm gonna finally get it with my Mug Club. Gavin, my fucking Guinness, Josephine. I've only been demanding him all year. They finally don't see my hashtag. Probably a prank. It ain't been announced. No, Josephine, it ain't been officially announced. They don't know that their microphone's on. It's what we call a hot mic. That Gavin McGinnis is sexist. Hey, Josephine, he ain't sexist. You just say that because you're angry and facts. You think he's targeting you. You can't see through the fucking screen.
Trust me, you're gonna love it, okay?
Sweet Mary and Joseph.
Robert Sullivan, get to the fallout shelter.
I always knew those ragheads would make it to our shore, Sullivan.
Sir, yes, sir.
Thank the Lord above, we prepared with preparewithcrowder.com. $99 shipped free for a 30-day emergency food supply kit.
Sir, yes, sir. Everything you need, reasonably priced. We have full meals, freeze-dried fruits, soup, and pudding, sir. Just add heat and water.
That's right, Private. Just add heat and water. Where's all the water, Private? Sullivan? Do you mean to tell me that we forwent the most basic human necessity in exchange for caffeinated sugary soda pop?
I thought we need our energy, sir. Like the terrorists?
Preparewithcrowder.com or call 888-411-5153. 30-day food supply kit, $99 shipped free.
They have pudding.
It explains the trouble that I'm always in. It explains the trouble that I'm always in.
All right, glad to have our next guest. Look at all the tweets. All of a sudden, the lines are lighting up.
Lighting up.
If we actually had
If we had-
phone
we
lines,
don't have
but
them.
with ladies.
No.
With ladies who, what's funny is at Real Dean Cain, Mr. Dean Cain, and you're scheduled this time. Good to have you on.
Absolutely. Jared, what's up, man? We'll deal with that after. It's fine.
The ladies who love you, I mean, like there is this whole fan group, and I don't even think they're necessarily politically conservative, so this show may not be up their alley, but I'll get direct messages like, Dean's on, you need to let us know so we can make sure to notify our fan club members. Like, do they, what's the relationship like with people like that?
That's my mom and my sister. And her it's pretty simple.
Which is odd because they get
straightforward.
hyperly sexual very quickly, so.
Oh, that's my cousin. Yeah, whatever.
Yeah.
No, I listen. If there's people that are fans like that, bless them, and I'm very happy for that. Doing these Comic-Cons and things like that I'll do sometimes around the country, around the world. People will say very nice things, and you play a superhero for for a number of years, sometimes at impressionable youth, and they'll hang on to you forever, and I'm okay with that.
It surprises me, though, because you're very outspoken politically. I mean, we've always talked about this, Nutgay Jared. He doesn't hold back at all, which is surprising, because then when I see you on the Today Show and they're playing, is it rude or not rude? And it's softball, like double dipping. I'm like, do you realize what this guy, like you would hate what he stands for, but he's such a nice guy.
He has nothing to lose. He's already Dean Cain.
I mean, yeah, I guess
they probably wouldn't if they actually got into a real discussion with me about the politics of it.
Yeah.
On the face of it, they'd be so upset. Oh, how could you possibly say this, that, or the other thing? Then you talk for 5 minutes. They go, oh, that makes sense. That's interesting. Okay, I can see where you're coming from.
Yeah.
Or it's just, I hate you, Nazi.
Yes.
Call me.
That's Twitter. I get that on Twitter all the time. Like, do you know what a Nazi is? Like, do you really understand what a Nazi is? Yeah.
Yeah.
And I'm a white supremacist who was born with the name Tanaka.
Yes, exactly. Yeah, you probably have a 0 somewhere in your lineage, crashing a dock. So you've been doing the Today Show. I won't, but hopefully, if people want to see, Dean Cain on there more, tweet at Real Dean Cain, tweet the Today Show, and see him doing it.
Yes,
I
enjoy doing that. It's great.
That's fun phrasing.
Yeah. Sorry, not to see him doing it. To see him doing the show. I would love to see you hosting a show, if only to get one of the good guys in there. But you were talking about this right before the break, and I said, hold on, save it for air. Right during the break, you said you've been traveling a lot. Go ahead.
This is the thing that blew me away. I've been all over this summer. I've been all over the world. So I was down in Australia. I was in Sydney. I was in Perth. I was in Brisbane, Gold Coast, Byron Bay, back over to Europe, London 2 or 3 times, back to Spain. I cannot tell you. Well, I could tell you it's probably in the dozens. The numbers of people who come up to me and go, "Love you on Louder with Crowder."
Well,
love you on
dozens.
Like what?
Across the globe.
You're all across the globe. They're like, "Oh, we watch it. It's so funny. It's so good. So smart." And I'm like, "You live in Perth, Western Australia," and they're like, "Oh, absolutely." In Perth itself, 20 people.
Yeah.
Just quietly on this line. "Love you on Louder with Crowder." I'm getting like, "Can you sign it? To Superman." Blah blah. I'm like, okay. Then I get like, a Louder with Crowder mug. I'm like, what?
That's great. And what else is crazy? Edward the sound guy didn't get. I think we fixed it. Jordan Peterson was just
He's
calling.
trying
Right
to
here. I
call
think we
us.
accidentally double booked the both of you. Don't worry about it. Jordan can wait. We got Superman, damn
Yes.
it. He's a bright guy. If you haven't been following Jordan Peterson, though, too, the left absolutely despises him because I think that's a big thing with you is you disarm a lot of them. Now, I know, listen, you're a nice guy, and I appreciate the compliment, and I'm always surprised when people abroad. That's something new. There are far more conservatives across the world. They just didn't really know they were conservative. They thought Republican, no one's as right-wing as the United States. Then when they kind of started learning some ideas now with new media and YouTube exploding,
They're open, yeah.
They're open. They're going, oh, okay.
But I'm all through London. I mean, London, 50 people. It was just, I was like, I was looking around for a second. I was like, is there a camera?
Yeah.
Is Crowder over here? Is
Yes,
Jerry
exactly.
by?
It's like
There's
Impractical
either
Joker
it's set
episode.
up or these guys are big fans.
I know.
You're on
by the way, I've
Crowder's
done other
camera.
stuff. Have you seen my recent Hallmark Christmas film? That's nothing to shake a stick at.
Darn right, they don't care. No, they're like, Louder Crowder, you're much better.
Yeah, or like what's going
Although
on?
the one with the kids when you adopted the kids, that one was great. That was great.
It was.
But Crowder's better.
I keep Hallmark on a loop when it's around Christmas time. Let me ask you this. We were talking about the Houston Charlie Hebdo magazine cover, Politico. Listen, I don't think that you and I are in the business of being offended, but here's one thing that I do think. When you look at Hebdo and it paints Houston as Nazis and you see all the Tea Party or Don't Tread on Me, the political thing they tweet out, you're a nice guy. But do you see in the entertainment industry in LA and in New York, you're doing the Today Show, you don't have to name names, the contempt for everyone outside of the coast? Because I think that's what's happening with new media. It's not that people are offended. It just shows utter contempt for people in middle America and their views.
I do see a lot of that. I see that when I say, oh, I support this, that, or the other thing, or I support President Trump or this policy that he has. I don't support every policy that President Trump has.
No.
I don't support every policy I have. I say this all the time. There's things you think about, you're like, oh, that was stupid. That's not so great. So I talk about this. When I first say that, they're like, oh, what did you – I'm like, well, let's think about it. Let's talk about this, that, the other thing. And you start talking, and then you find, you have some common ground. But it's like getting past that first hurdle is like literally taking a tennis racket and smacking him in the face.
Yeah.
The shock on the face. So I look for me, and I said this on the Today Show, the thing about Houston that's so amazing is the way people are coming together. And that's the story to me. Look what they're doing.
Right.
First of all, the government's doing a heck of a job. Governor Abbott said they've done it. It's an A+ job.
Yeah.
They're working their tails off. It's the most expensive situation. I mean, Houston's like, what is it, 2 inches above sea level anyway? I mean, it's a tough place. It floods a lot, and it's horrible. But what people are doing and the way they're coming together, and they're, Texans. You guys are in Texas. Texans are unbelievable, and in a crisis, you want some Texans.
I think
I
there's-
want
it's
Texans. I'll tell you that right now.
It's not only a contempt for Middle America. I think you see just ignorance to know Houston's a pretty diverse city, and Texas as a whole is not
Houston
as.
actually surprised people one year. I don't know if it was 04 or if it was 08. I think it was 04. Someone can correct me on this because I don't want to make this claim, but someone can show me. There was one year where it surprised me. Austin went red and Houston went blue. And I don't think a lot of people realize that Houston is actually surprisingly metropolitan and surprisingly mixed and not super conservative. You think Joe Joel Osteen, you think mega churches. So they're really mocking a lot of their own.
And in cultural diversity, there's a lot more cultural diversity in Texas than people think. It's not just a bunch of rednecks with Confederate flags running around here.
No.
Now, first of all, you don't see a Confederate flag in Texas that often. I'm sorry.
No.
You see a Lone Star flag.
Yes.
I haven't seen a lot of Confederate flags. I was like, a Confederate flag in Texas? I'm like, no,
Yeah.
I wouldn't see that.
It's pretty rare.
But, I mean, that was a horribly inaccurate cartoon. Now, that doesn't make me angry. I just go, that's just stupid.
Yeah.
It's stupid. And
Yeah.
it's just dumb. It's a dumb thing to say. It's not funny. You're making a point that isn't really a point.
Yeah, and it's not risky at all. To me, what really bothers me is just the laziness of the comedy. Like, hey, guys, aren't they Nazis? Okay, all right. What else you got? There's no risk there. And I think actually Charlie Hebdo, someone came out there and apologized about the Muhammad thing. Right off the bat, they were a little bit insolent, saying, no, we're not going to apologize. And then later on, I can't remember what it is that they did, but someone walked it back. I'm going, really? I mean, so
The
now...
last thing they should do is apologize for a Muhammad cartoon.
Yeah, I know.
Sorry.
Well, you know
I think that's wrong.
And here's what's crazy. Just drawing Muhammad, even in a flattering way, is considered far more offensive to Muslims than it is even to Texans to draw them drowning in a flood in a mocking way. That's the problem. Is you don't get the problem with the drawing Muhammad thing is you don't get to pick the rules by which I play. I can draw whatever I want. It doesn't matter what your religion says.
Yeah. And they shouldn't apologize for the Hurricane Harvey drawings either.
No, they shouldn't apologize. It's just lazy.
Yeah.
It's just lazy and stupid. I look at it and go, not even worth my time to. I mean, if you didn't ask me specifically right now, I wouldn't have commented on it because I was like, that's just stupid.
Well, it's just what's one of the top trends, along with apparently, was it Macomb County? What county is it we're now? Or we only shoot black people.
Oh yeah, we only shoot
That
black
was
people.
Georgia. Macomb is in Detroit, where I was born.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's right. In Georgia, you saw this video.
Where I was
we
born.
haven't even talked about it this show, but I will say
I haven't seen the video. I saw the headline.
anyone who doesn't know that this is clearly sarcasm is willfully lying or functionally retarded. The lady says, well, I'm just really nervous because I've been pulled over. And the cop goes, well, haven't you heard? We only shoot black people in this county. Haven't you seen the videos? All we do is kill black people out here. And shouldn't joke like that because on paper, it looks really bad when you just read it.
That's the headline. Yeah, that's not a good headline.
Damning, some might say,
Yes,
on paper.
I read the transcript before I watched the video. I was like, oh my God.
Terrible.
And then I watched it and I was like, oh, it's the opposite day. You know, he was clearly
It's a dad joke.
Yeah. Yeah.
A really
Satire
gruesome
is a
dad joke.
transfer on the written word.
Yes. It's a dad joke over which you lose your job.
Yes.
Unfortunately.
Most dad jokes should be.
All right. Can you give it?
Hey, I'm a dad, pal.
This is true.
Hey. Sorry.
Hey,
Yeah,
I'm sorry. I made the point. I know you don't like me pointing at you, Jared. We worked that out. Sorry.
All right. Today's show. Do you know what's going to happen there? You're on there all the time. Do people here know? Are you going to be a permanent fixture there?
Well, Megyn Kelly's coming in to have the 9 o'clock hour soon, so we'll see what happens.
It's all you can give us. All right, that's fine. Jordan Peterson keeps
What's your
calling us. I
reaction?
don't know what is
I'm
going
in
on.
New York right now, clearly, because
you
know that's not the normal Malibu background.
Yes. Are you planning on going down to Texas at all? Or I know obviously a lot of times people. I mean, you could actually lift things and help people as opposed to.
And I would love to be there and do that because in that situation I would be nails. I would love to do it. Love to be able to help. I don't have. I'm working, so I don't have time to get down there now. There was some time I was supposed to go down there. I have to do a bunch of trips abroad. I've donated some money already, and I've certainly talked about it quite a bit. But there's not much I can't get down there.
No,
so,
you use your
in fact,
platform.
I love to see the fact this though. I love to see there's someone was driving in today, and they filmed a line of about 700 trucks towing flatbed boats.
Yeah.
I was like, these guys are all people trying to get in to help.
Yeah.
And that's Texas, and that's America, and that's what I love, and it just makes me jump up and down and go, yes.
And I feel like that's how most people are taking this right now. Most people, obviously, there's this unity outside of the D.C., New York, L.A. unholy alliance where they're, Chris Cuomo tried to do the climate change thing with Kellyanne Conway, and she practically pegged him on TV. It was so embarrassing. She's like, okay, you play amateur climatologist. We talked about this earlier today. By the way, if you're in New York, if you see Chris Cuomo, I know you're polite, but just quote me directly and tell him that I think he's everything that's wrong with journalism and television.
Can I get in a wrestling match with him then too?
Only if there's oil involved. Or Jello.
Done.
I will allow one or the other, or all of the above. All right. Well, listen. Keep us posted. For people who haven't been watching the Today Show, I would love to see Dean. I'd love to see him there. Get in there and mix some things up, and hopefully they let you do a little more than BuzzFeed, rude or not rude. Maybe they'll ask
They
you.
can let you go on the 7 and 8 o'clock hours.
Yeah. Okay. There you go. And next time you should write in some questions. Like, hey, listen, let me give you some of these flashcards for rude or not rude. If like drawing Muhammad, and just watch everyone's face melt.
Well, my answer would be not rude. I'd probably have a drawing.
Right, and then they go, and we'll talk, Dean. We'll talk about your future at the Today Show.
And we come back, the execution of Dean Cain.
Yes. When we come back,
that
Matt
ain't gonna
Lauer.
happen.
All right. At Real Dean Cain, for people who aren't following him, a great friend of the show, doing a lot of good work, and let Today Show know. Real Dean Cain, we'll be back.
And now for episode 645 of the Game of Thrones Fandom Podcast. Okay, it's important that you stay on topic. Did you see the episode last week on Game of Thrones? Yeah. And what'd you find most fascinating about that one? I thought that Jon Snow was doing a lot with the... God, Eugene, I just tuned in to talk about boobs and butts. I just thought some of the narratives that tied together were interesting. Damn it, Eugene, no one cares about that crap. People tune in on podcasts to hear about the boobs and butts on the show. Stay tuned for episode 694 of the Game of Thrones Fandom Podcast, where Eugene will be replaced with an adult film actress.
I didn't close my eyes, I opened it, and there you are. Glad to have you. That was Dean Cain. No
listener.
drowning dance this week.
No, that would be horribly insensitive.
It would be in poor taste.
Poor taste, some may say.
Almost in poor taste to say that it would be in poor taste. It's almost like we're drawing attention to the fact that it would be in poor taste. Send your hate mail to at NotGayJared. Tweet him, not me. Love Dean Cain, love Ben Shapiro. I know it's been a little more personal tonight, but again, the news week has been dominated by obviously Harvey, and it's terrible. Sometimes it's hard to get your head around, and people feel helpless, like there's not a whole lot they can do. Like I said, we're giving $30 for every Mug Club Center for the next 2 weeks, and preparewithcrowder.com. They're matching it. So that's kind of what we can do. But we've noticed a lot of people, too, have shut off news this week because at a certain point, you do what you can, and then you have to move on. Mm-hmm. And we just didn't want to wallow in it. And I know everyone is hyper-politicizing it. And I know we have to address it, and so it's hypocritical because we're technically politicizing it by addressing Chris Cuomo. I get it. It's not lost on me. But with that, hey, listen, this is a good time. This show is a relief for a lot of you. Mm-hmm. It's like going to a movie in a stressful time in your life. That's something that I've done. We're not here to hammer you over the head with red meat lines and do an ad that gets a 3-second play on Facebook about how bad Barack Obama is, who also isn't president anymore. So if we're not entertaining you, we're not doing our job. That's something we can contribute. We did our best, but Not Gay Jared, you had a good point actually earlier today. I just had a thought, and this week you see so many people trying to help. Hold that thought. For people who are not Mug Club members,
this is true.
He scalded his tongue, so he's been talking like mush mouth all week. I just realized they probably just thought, well, Not Gay Jared got really not gay.
Really not gay.
Okay, go ahead.
So I was just thinking about this a lot, and there's so many people who want to help. And I think sometimes this Hurricane Harvey situation has provided a perfect parallel in that they want to help, and they help in all the wrong ways. Or they help in the ways that make them feel good about themselves. They help in the ways that make them feel like they're being helpful without not actually ever being helpful. And there's parallels there with that liberalism where they think they're helping the black community. They think they're helping the LGBT community by doing this or that or supporting these causes or those causes. And they're really causing more harm than good. And the people who... Not everyone means harm by supporting those things. I think a lot of people who get sucked into really think they are doing some good in the world.
Right.
But I think we got to be smart in the way we do these things. And if you really care about these communities, learn how to really best help them, because feeling like you're helping them is not the same thing.
No, exactly. It's not the same thing. Well, it was a celebrity, I forgot her name, who gave a bunch of money to the local LGBTQ center.
There's the one that only wanted to help black only.
Yeah, black only.
organizations, which I'm sure that's
that's what we call a
going to
hate
great
group. I
places.
expect it to be
hate
under
group.
the Southern Poverty Law Center. Doubt. So there was someone who gave it just to the LGBTQ center. And I actually had our researcher, Reg. I said, hey, can we look into how much good these people, because we never want to attack someone who's doing good even if we disagree with them. I said, can we look into how much of their funding, this LGBTQ resource in Houston, gives to the community, how much they would be, and he said, listen, we looked into their tax returns as a nonprofit. It's hard because they've never done any relief stuff. So we'd have to know after this year to then see if they've even contributed anything. So I wouldn't want to comment on this either way, and I appreciate that our researcher, one of our producers, helped us with that. But on the flip side, the person who gave to this LGBTQ charity right now, they're so in a one-track mindset as far as the only way I can help is through this LGBTQ political activism. I'm going to give it to them. Listen, it doesn't matter what these people need. Food, particularly non-perishable food. If there's somewhere where, unless you have diesel, you're not getting to them. Okay, they need food. They need some way to heat them. They need some can openers. They need resources. They need financial funding for people who are going down there with specialized skills. So electricians, plumbers. They don't need a bunch of volunteers going there with soup ladles. Remember Hurricane Katrina? People were running into each other like inbred mice. They didn't know what they were doing. They weren't organized. They said, listen, we don't need more volunteers. We need money. But for
Those
people
don't know what they're doing, those volunteers are going to get hurt.
Yes, those volunteers are going to get hurt. So you need to look into what it is that they need. But people who don't, they say, you know what, I'm just going to give it because it eases my guilt to give it to the LGBTQ AAIP number 2 group. They can't even get beyond the idea that, you know what, listen, yeah, there are LGBTQ people in Houston who are suffering. Yeah, there are probably Black Lives Matter activists who are suffering. But there are also some white people, some of whom may even be conservative. And guess what? Some of whom may even be conservative and maybe under the poverty line, and maybe single moms, and maybe they need help too. So what you need to do is look and see, how do they need help? Right now, it's namely resources, meaning financial resources, and places. They need homes, they need space. That's really what they need at this point. Not so much the volunteer, but if you can only volunteer, then do it. And that's another thing as a biblical principle as Christians, we've talked about this, and it's very clearly outlined. I had someone at church one time who did a sermon. He said, I think that a millionaire only thinks about his next million and where it's coming from. Right after that, I swear to you, this is at Greenfield Park Baptist, he passed the hat for his missions work. All of a sudden, those millionaires come in handy. Now, some people are greedy millionaires, absolutely. As a matter of fact, here's a litmus test. If you had $1 million right now, what would you do with it? Would you take $1 million right now? What would you do with it? Tweet me at SCrowder. And when you have these self-righteous people who say, no, I don't think I'd want it, good, you don't deserve that money. If you say, well, how many cars do you need? You don't deserve that $1 million. Because guess what? You're just thinking about what you can do for yourself. But I don't want to vilify the wealthy. I love that Miley Cyrus was able to give $500,000. I think it's great that Kevin Hart was able to give $25,000 to these charities. I would love to be able to sign over $1 million check. There's nothing wrong with that. You can do a lot of good. If someone were to hand you $1 million right now and you would think about what car you buy, I don't want you having $1 million. If someone were to give you $1 million and you think, hey, what third lake house could I get? I don't want you, Bernie Sanders, to have $1 million. But I do want the people who say, you know what, with another $1 million, I bet you I could feed a lot of people. You know what, with another $1 million, I bet you that I could probably house some of these animals and hopefully reunite them with their owners. You know what, with another $1 million, I bet you I could at least help maybe turn on some electricity for some of these folks. Money just amplifies character. Money is amoral. You can take money, you can use it to go buy cocaine, or you can take money and you can use it to get somebody off cocaine. Just like a gun, you can use it to rape somebody, you can use it to stop a rape. And so the left, in vilifying the wealthy, and you vilify the people who you need most in these times. And if you get in a one-track mind where the only way you can help is, it's got to be the oppression Olympics. Today it's the LGBTQ, it's mostly the T today, so we're going to side with them against the LG and the Q. You get to a point where you have no semblance of reality and you don't know how to best help people. If you keep vilifying, this is something that is really important to me. I know when people say, well, you know what, I'm socially more conservative, but you know, on moral issues, I'm more liberal. On financial issues, I'm liberal. It's not a moral issue. Theft isn't a moral issue when you're talking about taxes and redistribution. No, money is almost always a moral issue. And at the very least, it amplifies the moral issue. And if you spend, as the left does, as Bernie Sanders does, and Cenk right now, Cenk Uygur went out and he said, not a single dime goes to help any of these oil refineries. Well, guess what? Now the single mom in Dallas, asshole, can't get gas because there's a shortage. You want to make that worse? You and your stupid self-righteous, your piety. You're hurting the people you claim you. Who do you think is hurt most by you saying, I want to punish these oil companies. I want to tax them. You think Elon Musk is hurt? Or do you think maybe it's the single black mom who you're pandering to for votes the next election cycle who has to pay $4.95 a gallon? And that's the problem. When you don't live in reality and you have no semblance of a moral backbone, what do? You blame inanimate objects. I'm going to blame the gun. I'm going to blame the money. Right now, I want rich people. I want rich people to help. And I want to be a rich person. And the success of this show not only will be measured by how much we entertain you, but how many rich people we make because of this show. People who work with CRTV and Mug Club. That's a huge measurement of success because I know that I want people in this room to go out and I want money in their hand when a disaster like this strikes. Because they rallied together and said, how can we help these people? And within a matter of days, we got an entire website up with the bandwidth necessary to make sure that we are helping those in need. I would love to see them with more. I don't just look at somebody with money like Cenk or Bernie Sanders and ironically judge them. Remember, you're not supposed to be prejudiced, but anyone who has a wallet fatter than yours, you're supposed to try and take what he has. I want to see good people. I want to see Dean Cain on the Today Show for the same reason that I want to see the people who I know would do tremendous good with money to be billionaires. Because guess what? If you vilify everybody who's wealthy, if you vilify the mere idea of wealth, the only people who will become wealthy are those who don't care about being vilified. The only people who will be wealthy are the villains. So shut up with your self-righteousness, find out what people need, and get to work and help them.